Alright, here is Negative Sally with another of her negative reviews. This is a comic I bought by mistake. I thought this was part of death metal. I thought it was one of the one-shots like Trinity Christmas, but it's actually Tales of the Dark Multiverse, Christmas on Infinite Earths, which means this is one of those depressing what-if stories. And I think that this comic, it does just about everything possible to alienate any prospective reader. Firstly, it takes its name from Christmas on Infinite Earths, a very well-known and well-liked story, but it has as little to do with that story as possible. And instead, this is spinning out of... This is a twist on a random one-shot from 1986 called The Last Days of the Justice Society of Superheroes, which is a story I never liked. It was by Roger Thomas, and he was doing the one storyline he does to death with the Nazis during World War II. They use evil Nazi science to bring Norse mythology to Earth. And here we have the fire demon from Fairyland. And look at that big splash page of all these Golden Age superheroes. If only it was finished artwork, then it might actually be impressive. And so we have all of these characters, most of who haven't had any play in about a decade. And this comic decides to graphically kill off as many of them as they can, as fast as they can, and as unsatisfyingly as they can. Stephen Hawkman, he gets cut off immediately by a fire sword. Dr. Fates, he gets killed. And loads of minor ones just die in single panels like this because they have been deemed not even worthy of receiving a unique death sequence. And then we have Spectre. And Spectre does what he does for all these stories. He just presents a problem, so let's kill him very fast and also have him fall over and crush some more characters we cannot be arsed thinking about. And this here is the bit where it really got me. This is the bit where it really made me gan fuck off. We have Robert, the Golden Age Robert, Dick Grayskull. He has a line of dialogue, only to be met with a death in the next panel when a magic ring from another dead hero shoots through his skull. It's always mean-spirited, pointless violence for the sort of idiots who moan about Superman being stupid for wearing red underwear over his costume, or Wonder Woman for having an invisible plane. And if you're trying to appeal to those morons, the sort who love injustice and deceased, spinning this out of a comic from the 80s that nobody has read, and filling the book up with characters like Dynamite Dan and the Tarantula, it's just not going to appeal to them in any way. And if you are a fan of the Justice Society of Superheroes or the Infiniteers, you're not seeing these characters really be used. you see nearly all of them die crap deaths. And a majority of them, like Jade Lantern's here, a majority of them die off panel. Stories like this, where they begin by killing almost all of the heroes on the planet at the start, they can work. I mean, one of my favourite issues of What If, the SeaWorld Attacks one, that does it. And my favourite issue of What If, it ends with Korvac Dallas killing all of the Universe. But stories, they really have to earn the right to artlessly kill off characters like Stephen Hawkman or Wonder Woman or Jade Lanterns, characters who people like, characters with fan bases, and this definitely doesn't earn it. And then we have got the bit of the comic. This comic managed to annoy me in almost every way. We had a dishonest title. This has virtually now to do with Christmas on Infinite Earths. We had it based on a story I didn't like to begin with. We had all these characters dying needless deaths. We had some lazy, unfinished art. It was my fault, I take responsibility for this, but we had a comic that I didn't want, that I bought by mistake, that I wouldn't read in any other circumstance. But then we get to another level of really annoying, which is fucking Promise. We have about 3 or 4 pages here that suggest some actual interest or even just care for these surviving characters. We have a little sequence with Sandman, Leslie Dobbs. We have a really nice exchange between Black Panther and Johnny Thunders. And I didn't even like Johnny Thunders, but this is a nice scene. This is annoying because it clearly shows that this writer, who by the way, he wrote that awful Rayman comic I couldn't stand, Orlando, Florida. This writer obviously is capable of writing at least a half-decent Justice Society of Superheroes comic, but instead he writes absolute edgy crap instead. We straight away get back to the undefeatable fire demon from Fairyland, and we have an okay assortment of surviving heroes, a team that would make an okay basis for a new Justice Society of Superheroes series, but they are fighting the fire demon again, so we are having him horribly killing most of these remaining heroes with little effort after almost successfully building some of them up. Sandman, he gets burnt alive. The Flask with the funny art, he gets stamped on. And then we have 3 of them, Acroman, Black Panther and Johnny Thunders. They get burnt to a crisp, and they didn't really gan out fighting. This whole scene here, this is Green Lanterns. They are in this one panel of the scene. They just appear in one panel to die. And then we come on to yet another annoying thing. And that is that we were just building to an origin story for a character who comes from the Dark Multiverse, who will presumably appear in the background of a panel in death metal. And there's no wrong with that being the objective or the end point for these sorts of stories. I thought maybe we were building up the fire demon as that character. We had just seen him obliterate all these heroes in extreme ways. So I thought the outcome of this would be setting him up for some minor play in the background of the death metal crossover. But it is not the fire demon. Instead, it is something worse than that. It is something really pathetic. What we have is a full-on, unashamed, total rip-off of Silver Surfman. Green Lantern's John Scott, he decides to become the Fire Demon's herald, and he is now called Dread Lantern. Dread sounds naught like green. And this is what this story built to. A genuine rehash and pointless copy and paste job of Silver Surfman. Shameless and embarrassing. Total trash. And then to make one last Hail Mary pass to annoy a reader, the cover more or less gives away the idea that was the ending twist. Didn't read this, it is shit. A waste of time. This is an approach to comics, to comic book characters, to comic book history. This is an approach I didn't think I could hate more. I give this 7 thumbs up, which translates to English as a 7 thumbs up rating.